In this video, you will learn how to paint a realistic fall oak leaf in watercolor step by step, from soft golden underpainting to rich rusty browns, plummy shadows, and little hints of mossy green. I'll walk you through the key color choices and watercolor techniques so you can recreate that dry, crunchy, picked from the forest floor look in your own paintings. For this study, I collected a bundle of fall leaves, and over on my Patreon, we just finished a live session drawing them directly on watercolor paper. I love doing these demos. They're such a great way to adapt classic drawing skills to the unique needs of watercolor artists. And then I painted a quick color study. My patrons asked for a full step-by-step tutorial for one of these leaves, so I was very happy to say yes and share the whole process with you here. As always, take the colors and techniques you love, leave what doesn't feel like your style, and make this oak leaf your own. Now let's get started with an overview of materials. For this project, you don't need a huge collection of paints, just a few well-chosen colors. First, we'll need a pale yellow for the underpainting. Any ochre will do. I'll be using yellow ochre. Brown for the main leaf color, and you can choose a wide variety of browns from the classic permanent brown to burnt sienna to my favorite Quinacridone Scarlet. I'll show you all three in the first layer and then use Quinacridone Scarlet for the rest of the painting. We'll need purple for shadows. I'm using Dioxazine purple and some grayish blue for the darkest accents. I recommend indigo. Now for some extra variety, you can introduce some optional greens. I'll show you hooker's green or Pearlin green. Any green will work. And at the end, I will also demonstrate a quick glazing trick using a warm yellow to create sunspots and a soft blue to deepen the shadows. We're painting on cold pressed watercolor paper, and you'll need at least two brushes. A larger one in size 4 or 5 for big washes, and a small pointed round, size 2 or 0 for details and leaf veins. Let's start with a very soft base layer using a muted yellow. A warm earthy yellow like ochre is perfect for a fall leaf. It will give us a gentle glow without taking over. Most of it will later be covered by the shadows, but little hints of that warmth will still shine through. And that's the magic of watercolor. Because our paints are transparent, you can slowly build beautiful depth by glazing light layers over and over. Keep your yellow ochre very diluted, around light to medium value, maybe level 3 or 4, so lots of water, no creamy mixtures yet. And around the edges, let's add a much more concentrated brown. Notice how it softly spreads but stays near the outline. This is called wet on damp technique. It's a wonderful way to paint natural subjects like leaves and petals. The trick is to wait about a minute after laying down your yellow so the paper is damp, not soaking wet. And then your brown will travel just a few millimeters inward, creating a very soft, natural silhouette instead of a hard line. For the brown, you only need one color, but I'm showing you a few options just for fun. I started with permanent brown up on top, then used burnt sienna and Quinacridone burnt scarlet. I will stick with scarlet going forward because I love its red undertone and transparency. The point I'm trying to make is don't worry too much about having the exact colors I use. As you can see, all these browns look very similar, especially when fully concentrated, because what matters most for successful watercolor is your values, your lights and darks. The right balance of light and shadow is what creates realistic results. Specific pigments are more about personal preference most of the time, so use what you already have on your palette and focus on building that contrast step by step. Now that your first layer is dry, you're ready for the second one. This is what it's gonna look like when we're done. And this is where the magic happens. We start to define the leaf, deepening the shadows, bringing out the veins, and adding a bit more character. I like to think of this as our definition layer. So let's mix our first shadow color. I usually start with a combination of brown and purple. You might recognize this color recipe from our October Patreon tutorial featuring 3 pumpkins. This is Quinacridone Scarlet and Dioxazine Purple. You can also add a tiny bit of green if you want the mix to lean slightly more olive or mossy. Having a mix of colors rather than using a flat brown pigment straight from the tube will give you lots of flexibility. There's so many advantages. You can add more brown for warmer areas that are facing towards the light, or switch to more purple in your mixture for cooler, deeper shadows. Using a variety immediately makes your leaf look more natural and realistic with all these color transitions. And as you paint, feel free to drop in tiny hints of green, blue, or orange, adjusting the hue based on what you see in the reference. I'll talk more about specific pigments in a moment, but for now, notice that my mix is very diluted. This is important because we want this layer to be just 1 or 2 steps darker than your base. So we have lots of room for a third, even darker layer on top. And the main technique I'm using here is called negative painting, creating light shapes by painting around them. You can see me using it all around these thin leaf veins, leaving them lighter while darkening the space in between. This is very important for watercolor painting because we don't have the advantage of having light paint that we can apply to darker areas. And every time you add a shadow, I recommend softening the edge right away with a clean, damp brush so your strokes melt seamlessly into the background. This keeps everything soft and organic, not stripy and overworked. Now, a quick note on the specific colors that I'm using and why I love them so much. So my warm reddish brown is that same PR 206, Pigment Red 206, Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet from Daniel Smith. It's the one I used around the leaf silhouette in the first layer. My purple is Dioxazine Purple. You want to look for pigment PV23 in any brand for the deep, rich violet. And for greens, almost anything works. I used a little bit of warmer Hooker's green and occasionally a bit of Perylene green, which behaves more like very dark pine or even black green. Finally, my favorite dark is indigo. Mine is again from Daniel Smith. This is my go-to for deep details in almost any organic subject. I avoid pure black to keep things from looking muddy. And indigo, which is a combination of indanthrone blue and black, when diluted, shows a beautiful hint of blue and pairs perfectly with warm browns. Remember, blues and oranges are complementary, so harmony is built into this color mix. You might wonder why blue on a brown leaf, and that touch of blue is exactly what makes your shadows look realistic. In nature, shadows often pick up reflections from the sky, which is why snow shadows on a sunny day, for example, will always have a little bit of a blue hue. Even though I'm painting under studio lights, I still want that natural feel in my leaf, so I add a generous amount of diluted indigo into my darkest shadows. And if you like to go deeper into how shadows work and how to use them in watercolor, I have a full tutorial featuring a white shell where I break down the shadow theory step by step. I will leave a link for it for you below. So this already looks pretty good, but notice how much lighter the shadows are now that everything has dried. This is called drying shift, and it happens to all watercolors. So if you ever come back to your painting and feel like, oh, everything looks lighter or maybe even a bit dull, don't worry, that's completely normal. This is exactly why I almost always come back for a third layer to strengthen the shadows and bring back that depth and drama. In my first study, this is how much contrast I was able to achieve, and I really love that look. So in this version, we can already see a few areas that we can push a little bit further, mainly around the tips of the leaf on the right-hand side and at the bottom. So let's get started with the same mix of purple and scarlet, and this time let's also add a little bit of green because I do see a hint of green in my reference. You can do the same, adjust your mix based on what you see in your reference photo. And I'm starting at the top, working my way down, focusing on all the areas where I see some room to add darker values. My mixture is still quite watery, but because this is now a third transparent layer, it's starting to look much darker. It's kind of like overlaying pieces of colored glass, especially around the edges. That's where my color is mostly concentrated. That's exactly the look I'm after, and I'm still painting around the lighter veins using the negative painting technique. I'm even creating a few new veins where I feel they're needed and I have a little bit of room, like I did on the top left. And I'm gonna do the same in some other areas in the center and on the right. And each time you drop a darker shadow, try to soften the edge with a clean, damp brush. This will keep your transitions more gentle, so your shadows melt into the midtones instead of looking harsh and patchy. Observation is key here, whether you have a real subject, a real leaf like I do, or a reference photo. So keep looking at the leaf and ask yourself, where are the darkest darks and where do you see a shift in color temperature? So sometimes, for example, I switch to pure Scarlet if I want a section of the leaf to feel very warm and almost red. Other times I'm using pure indigo if I want to push a shadow to its deepest, darkest value. You can absolutely play around here. Take your time, pause a lot, and really look for those beautiful little details like extra veins, tiny patches of shadow, or splashes of unexpected color. And of course, you don't have to get super detailed to capture the essence of the leaf. I did include a lot of details up on top, but as I move down, you'll notice I switched to a larger brush, and instead of carefully outlining every small vein, I'm just sort of glazing broader, sweeping strokes of darker color, especially around the tips. I'm leaning more into my indigo blue and sometimes pure rich scarlet if I want a more vivid orange glaze. As always, I'm blending everything with a clean, damp brush, so these glazes behave like layers of colored glass and they deepen what's underneath, but still let those earlier colors glow through. More often than not, 3 layers are more than enough to finish a realistic watercolor. That said, there's always room for some stylistic choices, and this is where subtle glazing comes in handy, along with your own taste for how much color variation you want to see. Spoiler alert, I want as much variation as I can achieve every single time. For me, it's like a game. I want to see how far I can push my layers and my paper. But this is very much a matter of personal taste. So let me show you a few options and you can decide what feels right for you once you understand the technique and the pigment choices. So typically you can adjust the color temperature of your painting by glazing warm colors, something closer to reds and oranges on the color spectrum. For this to work without obscuring the underlying layers, you want to use fully transparent, non-granulating watercolors. So something from Quinacridone family of pigments will work beautifully here, and I'm using Quinacridone Gold to glaze a few segments for a more sun-kissed look. Now you can also cool off some of the segments, make them look like they're more in the shadow, maybe more dry, by glazing colors that are closer to purple and blue on the spectrum. Even certain transparent greens can work really well. Basically, anything on the color spectrum that's further away from red than your base hue. Again, look for transparent, non-granulating pigments. Anything from the Phthalo family of colors works really well. And here I'm glazing Phthalo blue, green shade, and a little bit of that same dioxazine purple. If you want a deeper understanding of color families and different qualities that work within each family, I highly recommend my recent book where I explore all of these in depth. It's called 101 Watercolor Secrets. I will leave a link below. And if you like to dive deeper into different watercolor techniques, specifically for painting leaves, I have an in-depth tutorial that covers a whole range of methods, including negative painting, granulating watercolors, and many others. It's one of my most popular videos on this channel, and I'll leave it up on the screen for you, as well as linked in the video description. The full tutorial for this particular leaf in real time with outlines and step-by-step photos will be posted on my Patreon next week. Thank you so much for watching and painting with me. I will be back next week with a cozy watercolor Christmas tree tutorial that will be perfect for your holiday cards.